My name is Drew Gibbs, and this is my reflection video for the final portfolio. So, throughout the process of this course, I decided to settle on talking about jazz fusion and everything encompassing that. I tended to focus on the history of jazz fusion throughout the course, just because that was something I was a little bit less familiar with, and I thought it would be a good idea to familiarize myself with every aspect of this type of music. So let's get into it. About myself, my name is Drew Gibbs. I'm a sophomore studying music composition here. I'm an accomplished musician, composer, and performer on all platforms. From as young as a toddler, I've been a musician, and I started on drums. My parents made sure they made me try everything to see what stuck, which I'm very thankful for now. About 10 years old is when I started playing piano, and I knew that that was something for me. I began writing music on the piano as well around that time because everything is laid out in front of you, and it all just sort of made sense to me. Ever since then, I've known that I wanted to do music. I've put on concerts with 300 people in the stands watching me. I've won first place in the state for competitions. And I've always found an incredible interest in jazz fusion because it's so technical and stimulating. And like I said earlier, the historical aspect is something that I was less familiar with, so I decided to focus on that. Down to my writing. I've grown a lot as a writer throughout the last two RC courses, as well as achieving so much more with music than I ever could have thought. College has done a lot for me as a writer. The way that the courses focus on one idea is very helpful in my opinion, because it allows me to write about something I'm passionate about, even if I'm not particularly passionate about writing itself. Writing about something you care about can have an inverse effect on that and make you care more about writing, if that makes any sense. So yeah, moving on to my public genre. I had the idea to create a flyer just because I thought that would be good, because not a lot of people know about jazz fusion, and if I could just have something to catch any person's eyes on the street or anything like that, then that would be great for introducing them to this side of music. Let's see. As I said down here, I initially began by creating a two-sided flyer, and we can go take a look at that. So this is the two-sided flyer that I made. You can see here the main information on it doesn't really pop. It's white, it doesn't really pop. These huge instruments down here. And then I say see back for more on here, which doesn't quite make much sense. So I have the back to the flyer, and that doesn't make sense because you would post the flyer on a post or something like that, and you would never see the back of it unless you ripped it off of wherever you had it. So all this information would go unnoticed. People would just be confused why it said see back on there. And I had the idea then to create a website to go with it, to kind of counteract this information and be able to put this information on the website. So you see my first iteration of that was just slapping a QR code here, and that wasn't a great idea, and we both agreed on that. So my next iteration, where is it? 1 second. My next iteration of the flyer was this. I made the Jazz Fusion Interest Meeting and the room to go to in black as compared to it being in white on here, so it all popped. I made the instruments smaller to make room for the QR code, and instead of saying see back, I said to scan the QR code. I also added the App State logo up here, whereas here it was on the back, and that would have gone unnoticed. So overall, I think this is a very successful revision of that first project. And here's the website that I came up with. Now, I'm not too great at making websites, but I think with my knowledge on the subject, I did a pretty good job. I added in contact for myself there, credit for the information, and overall good information about the topic of jazz fusion. So on to my literature review. As I created it, I wanted to encompass the history of jazz fusion. That was my focus. And I first had to decide what I wanted to speak about. And this is very important for how jazz fusion is understood by the reader. And after thinking about that, I decided to talk about Miles Davis and how influential he was, as well as the technical aspects of fusion and what you should listen to. And throughout the revision, there were many things I had to change. You left many comments on my paper that I had to revise. I first began by writing a rough draft, and then I had to fix the citations. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I had to fix my citations because you'll see here I have it according to the bow before the quote. But previously I had it set like this after the quotation. You see that there. And that was incorrect. And you gave me those pointers, so that was great. And then I also had to make the paper longer because I didn't meet the length requirement. You see, now I have a lot of pages going on here. Before it was, I think, about an entire page less. And I did that by adding on to the introduction here, which you also said was not quite right. I think my introduction cut off at around this point. So I'm glad that I added that last section there. And on to the annotated bibliography. Now this one didn't have as much revision. Most of the revision was before actually laying it all out. And I decided to add this picture there because that was the case. And it's a really nice picture, so I enjoyed it there. So most of the revision process was kind of done in the process of creating the assignment, if that makes sense. And by that I mean searching for different sources and having to find the proper sources. I remember plenty of times I emailed you and asked you if this source was correct, or if this source was okay. And for a lot of them, that was not the case. And it was very difficult to find proper sources for an annotated bibliography on the subject of jazz fusion, because it's just a very niche subject. So I ended up with quite a few great sources that you agreed with me on, and I'm glad I was able to find that, because I was worried I was just going to have to scrap the project as a whole and pick something different, simply because there was not much on the internet about it. So luckily that worked out for me. And I forgot to talk about the genre reflection, but I don't have too much to say about that. This was just kind of a crude layout for me on what I wanted to do. This was when I came up with the idea of the website and the QR code, which I think was absolutely crucial to the project as a whole. I talked about the frogs because people were asking about the frogs in the peer review, and I liked them. Yeah, I don't have much to say on this. And overall, I think it was a great semester, and I enjoyed this final project. This top heading here is a cover art of one of Miles Davis's albums, so only fitting that I include it there. Yeah, this is the contact page. Well, I appreciate all of your hard work giving me proper feedback. That does not go unnoticed. It means a lot that you care to give us feedback on all of our assignments. Thank you for a good semester.